Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. Today we are taking a look at a new knife from Old Hickory. And so this Old Hickory knife is a slip joint folder. These are made right here in the United States at the budget end of things. So made by Ontario Knife Company, Franklinville, New York. So these knives cost you around $40 at the retail price. So what are we getting at that price level? When I first saw this released, I went to go purchase it and I noticed, a little dishearteningly, there were a lot of negative reviews on this knife, or not a lot, but more than average negative reviews on this knife due to fit and finish. So here are my first impressions of the Old Hickory Outdoor slip joint folder. So first off, we can take a look at the knife opened and we'll get a look at the length and the weight. So right here we have a slip joint with an overall length of, let's measure it out, about 6.5 inches, maybe a little bit more, 6.6 inches. And I will note that is a little bit different than the advertised specs. Even on the OKC website, they got this wrong. They listed at 5.6 inches of overall length, but they just did a typo there. So if at a retailer you see the 5.6 inch length, you know that's wrong. However, you can see the blade length. So we are coming in under 3 inches. So it says 2.9 inches long on the specs, but the actual cutting edge is coming in a little less than that. So very good size for a slip joint in my opinion. And the blade steel here is one of the draws, because of course, if you are familiar with Old Hickory knives, they are very well renowned for using their carbon steel blades on their knives. So this right here is a 1075 carbon steel, which means with use and wear and time, this bright shiny color out of the box is going to form a nice patina finish on it eventually. And the blade itself, we see this nice nail opening. So rather than just a nail nick, this is a nail hole. And being a slip joint, that actually does help. Now the pull is not super heavy on this knife, but opening it with this nick right here, this gives you a really good solid grip to open it. And you can see there is a half stop here. And then blade is open. And so when the blade is open, take a look at the liners back here. It is fairly flush. So for the $40 price point, this is not bad at all. And in terms of play, there's really not a lot going on. That's pretty good, so no complaints there. But being a budget knife, where do we see some cutbacks compared to a lot of my other folders? I mean, looking in the interior of the knife, it is fairly dirty. I haven't tried to clean it yet. Looking around the pivot, there's some gunk in there that I can definitely try and work out with like a toothbrush or some canned air and oil. So there is some room for improvement there, but in terms of just getting a functional knife, at the price, I think you're getting what you paid for. So the edge on it is fairly sharp. So there are no burrs. There's no evidence of it hitting the back spring. So that seems pretty good. Very short, almost like a spear point tip here, very rounded off. I guess you would call it a drop point, but just the tip is not super pokey, I guess you could say. I mean, it's still sharp, but it's not like a clip point blade. You can see the grinds there on the sides. Handles here, they call this a hardwood on their advertising. So hardwood handles, looks like walnut to me. Looking at the side profile, it could be some kind of like a laminated walnut or something. Either way, it is definitely something that's going to be on the less expensive side because they're trying to hit that budget price, but it still looks good. The pins on the knife do protrude a bit from the handle. Nothing wrong with that. It does add to the character a little bit, gives you some color, gives you some pop with those brass pins, brass liners, steel back spring, logo lasered on the wood. I think it looks pretty nice. Old Hickory. In hand, it feels nice and beefy because you'll notice how thick the handles are here. So it does fit the hand very well. So the grip is very natural. Putting your thumb down, you don't feel a whole lot of give in that spring because the back spring is fairly strong. There we go. Check out the centering of the blade. Maybe it doesn't matter as much on the slip joint, but it is a little bit off to the side. And of course, in terms of quality construction, there's no light bleed. I don't have any gapping on the liners, which sometimes happens in cheaper slip joints. And I think that might have been one of the complaints too on some of the reviews I read. But this particular example is fairly solid as far as budget knives go. But of course, budget knives in this category do exist. So what else is this knife competing against? So first I'll show you what it's really not competing against. So right here, this is a Great Eastern Cutlery bullnose, and this is number 71. And I'm just going to pull this out for a size comparison. So we can see side by side, it's actually fairly similar in overall length to the Great Eastern Cutlery bullnose number 71, this one in green linen micarta. So if you like how this one fills your hand, the Old Hickory is going to do that at a budget price. And I say that because look at the thickness, because these bullnose knives are known for the thickness of these handles, and it is almost identical in overall thickness here on these knives. So very good analog. Unfortunately, these ones here are a little bit harder to obtain. They sell through really quickly, and they're just very sought after. So if this is not an alternative for you, there are some other companies at the budget end that do make knives like the Old Hickory right here. And namely what I'm thinking of is case knives. So generally, if you're looking for a budget slip joint made in the United States, case is your number one bet. This one right here isn't really a great comparison, but this is one of their more recent offerings from Case, one of their Halloween models. So it has, of course, the Halloween etching on there, very pretty. But again, the fit and finish on the Case knives is going to be similar. Actually, you know, the Case knives are going to probably be a little bit nicer than what we see on this Old Hickory for the price. So we can see just those side by side as well. So we'll place that down there. And on the foreign made end, $40 for this Old Hickory knife, and around $40 for this one right here. It might have been a little more. This is a Rough Rider Reserve. This is their swayback model. And this one may have been 40 or may have been 50, but they do have models for $40 as well. And so the $40 Rough Rider Reserve, the Reserve line again is meant to be a higher end imported knife. So we have the logo there. This is going to be a D2 steel. And looking in the interior there, you can see it's very clean. So the Rough Rider Reserve line generally is just super clean, super polished. The fit and finish on them is pretty darn good for what you pay. And this is what the same price gets you from a foreign production knife. But that being said, of course, we are here for a US made knife. And so if you are wanting something manufactured, you know, in New York, the Old Hickory, the entire brand is all made in the USA as far as I know. And this folder right here, I think, is a great addition to the lineup. You know, the only thing that I would caution, again, there are some reviews out there. It's a new knife model, so maybe there are some hits and misses. Maybe it's luck of the draw, picking one out of the box. This one here, I think, is probably a good example of what you're going to get when you pick one up. I mean, you can definitely feel that it was made at a price point. So if you have any questions about this Old Hickory knife, feel free to leave a comment below. But again, these are just my first impressions. I just got this. Just really wanted to share with everybody what's available for your money, made in the USA. Well, I guess not this guy here. But again, any questions, drop them below. Have a nice day, everybody. See ya.